Perfect. So this is the structure I used for my SOP for MedSRT. MedSRT has no stated word limit for SOPs. I'm not sure whether they have put a word limit at the moment or not, but back a year prior, they did not have any word limit for SOPs. So this is the structure that I used for my SOP. That is first the introduction part, then your interest, meaning how I developed interest in research and why I wish to attend MedSRT, and then my CV as a story. As I said, you should narrate your CV rather than just putting in points, and you have to use fillers as bridge between segments, like Surya mentioned before. Like you tried computational, but you didn't get a hold of it, and you're not that interested, so you moved to lab research. That's why you want to be in MedSRT. And lastly, the conclusion. I think rather than using the conclusion that I used, it's way better to use what Surya mentioned. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so I'll start with the breakdown of my SOP. The first para that I used was a very basic introductory paragraph, and it was completely filler. There was no need of it at the time, but uh, I used, I read a SOP of a prior attendee at MedSRT, a prior scholar. So her SOP started with something that put in her perspective of what she thought was research in um, medical sciences, and that's what I took in and I put in mine as well. So here's what I wrote: scientific research. I wrote about scientific research, clinical trials, and all the new technologies that are coming in. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here's where the part that actually matters start. It's your story. The first para is again a bit of filler content that says that physician scientists that are clinicians involved in medical research are the ones bridging the gap between labs and hospitals. India faces a major shortage of these people, and from an early age, I had keen interest in oncology uh, because my mother she works at a onco hospital, so that was one of the main reasons. And then I wrote about my journey in medical college and how from that I developed keen interest in research. So I wrote that I was bored by anat and physio was interesting, but later in second year, patho was the one that consumed most of my time while reading, and I loved pathology. And yeah, the part that Surya mentioned to not in like that, it's a very generic part is someone, your relative who has something, who has some disease, and you want to find chemotherapy, or you want to find maybe a new drug for treating it. I had to put in that part because that was quite near me, and that was again a factor that added towards my journey and like making my way towards oncology. So I put in that as well. And there's again a filler. I tend to use fillers as a bridge between paragraphs. The filler is that all this led to me finding out that India has nearly 14 lakh cases every year of cancer, and there's a 10% growth, all that. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, so you have to put in your CV as a story. Uh, I basically put in what all I did throughout my 3 years of med school. That's basically what most people do is they apply for STS program, they get in, and then they conduct epidemiology research. And if they are lucky, or if they wish to attend programs, they attend programs at some other institute. Like I was there at workshop on computational oncology that was conducted at IIT Patna, and that was my first exposure to interdisciplinary research. I put in that as well. And what that made me realize was the scope of clinical research was not limited to trials and community medicine. Is what my takeaway was from my experience at IIT. And later, I joined in Amravati Cancer Foundation as an observer and also spent 2 months as a clinical trial intern over there. Yeah, next slide. Yep. And again, I have a filler again, which is a trivia. There was no need of that. I discussed my CV with my roommates at MedSRT as well, and they pointed out that there was no need of this para as such. But later, I've added that what my next experience was at AIMS Hopal, where I was a part of International School of Oncology, where I was introduced to procedures that were going to be taught in MedSRT. But in MedSRT, what you do is you get hands-on experience with this thing. I was only exposed to them at that moment. So, as Surya said, at least narrate three incidences and what you learn from them. Okay, so that's there. I put in two incidences from which I learned. Okay, next slide. One. And then there was conclusion. That's like a half-baked conclusion. It was like I want to gain first-hand experience with lab research, and my commitment to cancer research is a deep-rooted one. And this program will steer me in the right direction when it comes to making impactful contribution to cancer research. That was my conclusion. So my SOP was about 600 words. So don't make it as big as a long read as mine. Try to keep it short. Uh, let's move to the next slide, Paul. So yeah, common mistakes to avoid. These are, I would say, the first one is specifically for MedSRT. I talked with the program director over there, Dr. Archana Bharadwaj ma'am. She told me that people uh, who are way too experienced, even they apply to MedSRT. Like if you are way too experienced, you don't need MedSRT to be there for you. It's a training program. It's your first step towards translational research. And she herself said that I don't want to select people who are too experienced for this program. So if you're too experienced, you actually don't need MedSRT. But if you're someone who's like me, this was my first exposure to lab research. So it is always preferred. She always prefers people who are less experienced, especially when it comes to lab research, to be a part of MedSRT. Also, uh, there's a common rule to use shorter and simpler words where it is possible. It's easier for the reader. And the last point is avoid grammatical and syntactical errors. Uh, thank you. I'll